and welcome to Journey with the Kellers. My name is Amanda Keller and today we are back in the Keller kitchen. So today we are going to be making our next recipe from the Dolly Parton Dollywood cookbook. Today's recipe is just biscuits, okay? All right, so this is a pretty simple recipe to do. The one thing that you are going to need to do ahead of time is you are going to need to preheat your oven to 500 degrees, which sounds really hot to me, so I think I'm gonna watch my cooking times on this. Okay, so the first thing that you are going to do for this is you are gonna add 2 cups of self-rising flour, which I think I just splooshed a bunch over the edge of the container there, but that's okay. All right, so we've got 1 cup and 2 cups of self-rising flour. I can't say that today. All right, now you're going to cut in your shortening, and you need 1/4 cup of shortening. And usually cutting in would be, they have these like little, I guess they call them like a cutter, I'm not sure. But anyways, they have things to do it with. But you can also just take 2 forks, and you can use that and just kind of slide them against each other and cut that in. Okay, you could also just use your hands and kind of crumble them in there. Just cover this in flour, cover the shortening in flour, and then use your fingers and kind of just separate it out throughout the flour. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get this all cut in here. And you're like bringing the forks like across each other like that. Okay. Okay, so cut that in. If you have a cutter, that works perfectly because that's what it's for. I forget what they're called. So if somebody knows what they're called, let me know. I could probably look it up, but I'll probably forget. So they might just be called a cutter, but yeah. Okay. Got a big clump of shortening there. Okay. So now it says to add your milk, you need 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup. So I have 3/4 of a cup in. So we're just going to go ahead and pour this in until hopefully about maybe 1/4 of a cup is left. And we'll see how that does, okay? So I'm going to start out with a fork. If it gets too hard to stir it with a fork, then I'll switch to my hands, okay? All right, so you're just gonna go ahead and make sure you get that all mixed in real good. I think we're gonna need probably a little bit more milk. It's not quite enough to get all the flour mixed in there. See, as you can see, I got a lot of flour just kind of sitting there that's not wanting to mix in. So we're probably gonna have to put more in. You do want to make sure though, try really good to get that flour to mix in, because you don't want to add too much milk. You don't want it to be too, I guess, wet would be the word for it, or moist, I guess. So sorry, I think my dog just hurt herself. So hold on a second, let me go check on her. Sorry about that, guys. We have bells that are hanging on our door handle so our dog can ring them when she needs to go out, and I guess one of them has gotten kind of smashed up in the door and it caught her toenail when she went up to swipe at it. So, I think it hurt, but she's okay. So, all right, so let's pour in a little bit more milk here and then get that mixed up. I think I am gonna have to go with my hands. I just don't like this. To me, is so much easier to mix with your hands. I mean, you could also use like a mixer, stand mixer or something. That would of course make it easier because you don't have to do it. But this is such a small, it's a small amount of dough, and to haul out my mixer and all of that to do it would be a lot of work for something I can probably just do by hand. Okay. All right, so it's actually getting pretty good and mixed up, but I still am seeing some things that aren't quite going in there. But the the dough itself seems really nice, so I don't really want to add more milk. I just want to keep trying to work those in. There we go. Now they're going in. Okay. Okay. So once you get a nice good dough, we're going to go ahead and just flour our whatever you're using, board, counter, whatever here. Just lightly flour it. And you're just going to knead it like 10 to 12 times is what it says. Okay. And I do have about, it's probably like maybe 1/8 of a cup of milk left. It's not very much. Just a little tiny bit down there. Okay, so just knead this up. Basically fold it into, I usually pull up from the one side, fold it in towards the middle and press down. Okay. And you can kind of like press down and out too if you want to make sure that you get a good knead. Okay. All right, that's looking good. Okay, so it makes a pretty nice dough. Okay. All right, so now what you're gonna do, I'm gonna flour this down a little bit more. We're gonna roll this out. So you wanna roll this out to about 1/2 inch. And my rolling pin does have these little 1/2 inch things on them. So you're gonna roll it out. You start in the middle, kind of press down and roll out. You should usually roll out from the middle, just because it's supposed to get the dough rolled out better if you do. So roll it out from the middle, flip it around a couple times. I flip it over and flip directions of which way it's going to get it all rolled out. Okay. And 1/2 inch is pretty thick, you guys. So, you know, it's not going to roll out much. Okay. And I just realized I forgot to get my biscuit cutter. So so I have the biscuit cutter. Now you can use if you have a biscuit cutter, you can use that. If not, you can use pretty much anything that's round that'll cut through the dough. That's about what you think the size of a biscuit should be. Okay. So we're just going to cut these out. And it says to put them on an ungreased baking sheet. And these are pretty thick. So see how thick that is? It's a pretty good size. Okay. Now I am putting them on a baking sheet, but I have parchment paper on mine. I always put parchment paper on mine, even if it says to do an ungreased sheet, just because one, I think it helps it to cook better. And two, you know, my baking pans are getting kind of old and they're starting to get stuff on them from other things cooking on them that don't really come off, even though I've scrubbed them to death. So I just use parchment paper just to make sure that everything is nice and cooked well and I don't have to worry about it, okay? Now, you can go ahead too, once you get your first ones cut, you can go ahead and put it back into like a little ball and roll it back out and make some more. Again, roll out from the middle. Like I said, this is not gonna make very many because it's, you know, it's not much dough and the dough needs to be pretty thick to make the biscuits. So, all right. So once you've got all of these on the pan, which looks like we're gonna make about maybe 6, maybe 7, depending on how this one rolls out. You're gonna bake it for about 8 to 10 minutes is what it says. I am actually going to check it pretty early just because 500 degrees to me is really hot for a biscuit. So I'm probably gonna go check it maybe at like 6 minutes, just because I don't want them to burn. And I think since this book was printed back in like 1989, I think 500 degrees, maybe a little bit more consistent nowadays than it was back then. I'm not sure. But I know that the last time it told me to cook something at that high of a temperature and for however long, it ended up burning what I was making. So I'm gonna go ahead and check them, probably starting at about 6 minutes and just keep checking them along until we go. That piece isn't big enough to make a biscuit. Okay, you guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and get these popped in the oven and then I will be back and we will see how they turned out. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, you guys, so these are all done. Now, I put them in for 6 minutes and they were already starting to brown. So I put them in for 1 more minute and they're pretty much perfectly done. They are pretty white on the top, if you can see that, but the bottoms are pretty brown. So that's what you want to watch for. The bottoms will brown quite quickly. I'm trying not to touch this pan because it is still hot. And so, yeah, so they turned out really good. They rose pretty good, as you can see. Some of them better than others. This was like the last of the batch, so it's a little bit more cracked up because it didn't roll out as smooth. But yeah, they turned out really good. Now, here we go. We got to try one of these. I'm just going to try a little piece because we're actually going to have these for dinner tonight. So I wanted to make sure that we had enough because I'd only made like 6. Okay, so here we go. Okay. So I don't know what kind of biscuits you guys have had. So these taste a lot more like a restaurant style biscuit, like something you would maybe get at like Cracker Barrel or something like that. Maybe even something kind of like Hardee's back in the old days when they used to carry like fried chicken and they used to have biscuits with them. It kind of tastes like those as well. They're not too dry. They taste pretty soft and they taste quite a bit like a regular restaurant style biscuit, I think. So I would say they're better definitely than a canned biscuit, but they're about the same as what you would get if you went to a restaurant. Of course, you probably pay a lot more money at a restaurant to get 6 biscuits, I think. Maybe, probably, yeah. All right, you guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Like and subscribe if you like, or don't if you don't. Everyone have a good day. Enjoy your cooking. Keep your kitchen messy, and we'll see you later. Bye.